its origins hatched in Slavic folklore, the mythical firebird's journey westward has only enhanced its avant lore. Finding sanctuary amid sands both timeless and perpetual, the allure of the bird's plumage radiant, eyes hypnotic, talons just, and song enchanting prove a presence magical for those who respect its powers, and a harbinger dark for those who seek to tame its flight. In tales of yore, times bygone, the firebird protects its nest, the hue of its brilliant feathers, a guiding glow of belief, of renewal, of light, of home. A narrative rooted in myth, such powers, such imaginations are today realized with a tale of light and freeze. For the firebird and those who embrace its journey, it is a tale of seasons reborn, a fable actualized by the forge of steel blade and wooden implement, a legend which grows by roar and score. It is a story of fire and ice.
Greetings, friends, and Firebirds fans, and welcome to the Desert Suns Fire and Ice podcast presented by Desert Willow Golf Resort. Coming to you from Palm Desert, California, a mere Logan Morris and All-Star stub away from the Birds home ice of Acrisure Arena. I'm your host, Judd Spicer. Fourth season of Coachella Valley Firebirds hockey. Fourth season of Fire and Ice. Interesting times, to be sure, in the hockey world. We have reached the All-Star break for the AHL, while, of course, the Olympic Games are underway in Italy. Women have been playing for a few days at least. The show actually being recorded just before puck drops for USA-Canada on the women's side. Men get underway tomorrow. That would be Wednesday, right about the time this episode is released, with Slovakia and Finland. Team USA on the men's side will play Thursday afternoon Pacific time, their first game of the Olympics, versus Latvia, part of Group C. However, I digress. While the NHL pauses, while the AHL pauses for its all-star activities in Rockford, Illinois, we at Fire and Ice do not take pause. Rather, I'm going to call this a special episode because we've got a special guest joining us, actually making his debut on the Fire and Ice podcast, Dan Bylsma. Going to be joining me here shortly. Dan, of course, head coach of the Firebirds in the team's inaugural 2 seasons. Got the pair of Western Conference Championship banners to show for it. Sometimes, on occasion, friends, timing sways your way. It was just about a week and a half ago as the Birds were wrapping up their recent homestand before hitting the road prior to the All-Star break. Andrew John, Andrew John from the Desert Sun. He and I were walking through Acrisure Arena, going to take our seats in our little peanut gallery media perch. And who did we happen upon in the concourses of Acrisure Arena? Dan Bylsma. Great to see Dan, and very much look forward to visiting him again for the first time on the Fire and Ice podcast. We will get to that shortly. In the interim, let us recognize those who make this show go. Desert Sun newspaper. Been informing our gallery since yonder 1927. Got that big centennial coming up for the Desert Sun. Looking forward to an awesome party. Until next year, however, we'll have to wait for that. But in this episode, we'll have some Desert Sun flavor by way of Shad Powers, the leisure and sports editor at the newspaper. He's going to be joining me, of course, for our epilogue segment, the Desert Shootout, coming up at the close of this episode. You can follow all the news and sports Firebirds coverage online at desertsun.com. Or, of course, for the tactile, go and buy yourself a Desert Sun newspaper. Desert Willow Golf Resort, also right here in sunny Palm Desert, California, home to the Mountain View and Fire Cliff courses, respectively, mere 1.5 miles away from the Birds Barn of Acrisure Arena. Make it a great putt-to-puck day. Go tee it up over at DW. Either course, trust me, you're going to love them both. Skate it on over Cook, cut right on Varner, bang. You're at Acrisure Arena to take in a Birds game in the evening. Meant to mention this on the most recent episode of Fire and Ice. NBC's Golf Pass, they put out their Golfer's Choice 2026 awards. And who showed up in the top 50? No surprise, the Firecliff course at Desert Willow Golf Resort. That's voted on by readers, one of the top 50 in the country. Yet another accolade on Desert Willow's ample mantle, 5-star rating from readers, golfers, golf course visitors, by the way, to get in that top 50 for the Firecliff course. But again, tee it up in the Mountain View as well. You're going to dig both. Get those tee times online. Check out the on-site and awesome Palm Desert Golf Academy at desertwillow.com. All right, friends, let's skate it on over to the Firebirds Freeze Frame segment. And of course, the Firebirds Freeze Frame is brought to you by our friends at the Ground Squirrel and the 29 Palms Beer Company. You know, Ice Action, dudes, isn't limited to Acrisure alone. Hockey fans seeking some pregame drinks, postgame toasts. You need only look to yonder high desert where our Firebirds friends at both the 29 Palms Beer Company and the Ground Squirrel, that's GRNDSQRL, they're serving up some awesome meats and incredible beers in downtown 29 Palms. Ground Squirrel, of course, sports an awesome gastropub-style scratch-made menu. You walk in there, you're going to think it's fun, it's funky, it's high desert, weird. Trust me, the menu is exceptional. Joel Peterson, he's a chef. He's a real chef. He's sneaky quiet about it, but you're going to be totally surprised by the food offerings over at the Ground Squirrel. They, of course, match that menu with a rotating list of craft beers. Those seeking a potent power play, you skate it right on down the street to the 29 Palms Beer Company, where they're brewing their own phenomenal beers right on site, and, this is important, televising every Firebirds game, whether it be home or away. You might want to try out that Highway 62 Blonde. That's among their core beers they're serving, by the way, the 29 Palms Beer Company. I like that one. I also like the Ocotillo Hazy Pale, also very, very good. Local seeking a fun new scene. Maybe you're a desert guest up there exploring Joshua Tree and Pioneer Town. Hey, you might be celebrating a Birds win or potentially drowning your sorrows after a tough loss. You lace up the hospitality in 29 Palms with the Ground Squirrel and the 29 Palms Beer Company. Those are proving your high desert hockey homes. All right, dudes, let's get to this Firebirds Freeze Frame segment. As mentioned, we're now at the All-Star break this Tuesday. We'll start with the All-Star Skills Competition. We remember this from last year when we were the hosts. That, of course, is followed by Wednesday night, the All-Star Challenge. Rockford, Illinois. Yeah, I'm a native Midwesterner. Been there once. I stopped outside for some reason. Nearly got my ass kicked there. At a place, Charlie Brown's. Wonder if that's still in existence. Not to speak ill of Rockford, Illinois. It's about 40 degrees there right now. Last year when we hosted the All-Star festivities, well, I can only tell you today that it's about 72 and sunny here in Palm Desert. Nonetheless, I trust it'll be another great All-Star dual day event. All right, 45 games down, 27 to go for the Birds. 25, 15, and 5 is the record, placing CV in a virtual tie for fourth place with San Jose in the Pacific Division. Went into the break with that 4-game road trip. Served them well. 3 wins on that road trip. The lone loss, by the way, coming to San Jose in a 1-2 defeat. Things got a little funky finishing up that road trip in Henderson. Birds nearly let a 3-1 lead get away. I think 2 6-on-5 goals in the last 40 seconds for Henderson. Nonetheless, Birds got it in the W column by way of a really nice one-timer from Ty Nelson. Good way to head into the All-Star break. CV back at it this Friday night. Friday the 13th, Spooky versus Tucson here at Acrisure Arena. That's a 7 p.m. puck drop. Tucson in 7th place, by the way. There's also Kraken Night taking place at Acrisure Arena this Friday. We'll look forward to seeing you there and then at the Birds Barn. Double dip with the Roadrunners coming back at you this Sunday, the 15th. That is a 3 p.m. start at home versus Tucson. Birds then hit the road again for a 3-game trip that is getting underway Wednesday, the 18th, away at Bakersfield. Per the players, got the show underway mentioning that all-star snub of Logan Morrison. Dude is having himself a phenomenal season. 46 points. He leads the Firebirds. 23 goals. I like this synchronicity. Paired with 23 assists. He's third in the entire American League in points, not appearing in Rockford, Illinois this week. Kind of scratching my head on that. Nonetheless, 2 CV representatives are playing. Among them, the Red Rocket, Jagger Firkus, also having himself an exceptional season for the Firebirds. 44 points thus far in the year. 17 goals, matched with a team high tied, 27 assists. That places him seventh, those 44 points in the entire AHL. Also appearing, also representing CV in Illinois for the All-Star festivities this week, rookie Tyson Jugnoth, 33 points on the year, 6 goals. He too has 27 assists. Those 33 points rank young Tyson third among all defensemen, not just rookie defensemen, all defensemen in points in the entire American League. Oscar Molgaard, our Olympic representative for Denmark, 22 points on the year. Mind you, Oscar has done that in just 36 games, 7 goals matched with 15 assists. Denmark, by the way, they are part of that Group C that includes the United States, also includes Latvia, additionally includes Germany. They are going to get play underway versus said Germany team on February 12th. USA versus Denmark. Going to be keeping a close eye on that. Will we love it? Well, it takes place on Valentine's Day, February 14th. Of course, Denmark versus USA. Wishing Oscar all the best in his Olympic experience. Per the netminders for the Firebirds, Nike Coco. Haven't seen Nike. Been out with the injury since January 10th. Record between the pipes of 11-6-2 thus far into the season. Goals against of 3.22, save percentage of 8.96. The Swede, Victor Osman, 10-9-3 in net. Goals against 2.93 with a save percentage of .904. Very popular episode on the most recent Fire and Ice. The Laugher, Jack LaFontaine, continues to do it, continues to get it done, continues to play at a very, very high level for the Firebirds. Well, he hasn't lost. Jack LaFontaine, 4-0 in his time with the Firebirds this year. Goals against of a mere 1.84. That's razor thin. And a save percentage, very high, .933. Not qualified for official AHL leaders, but if he were, both that goals against mark and the save percentage would chart Jack second among all goaltenders in the entire AHL. That was a great visit on the most recent episode, and Jack LaFontaine continues his great play in that for CV. All right, friends, so much thanks and gratitude, appreciation to both the 29 Palms Beer Company and the Ground Squirrel for sponsoring this Firebirds Freeze Frame segment. All that offered, all that preface, let's get to this episode's special visit with former Firebirds head coach Dan Bylsma. All right, Firebirds flock. As prefaced, my guest on this episode, he's a native of Grand Haven, Michigan. Among a whole laundry list of accolades on his CV, 9 years on the NHL ice as a player, 9 more on an NHL bench as a head coach. That includes a Stanley Cup championship, Jack Adams Award as the Coach of the Year, also head coach of Team USA at the 2014 Olympic Games. Selfishly speaking, additionally, if not moreover, we remember him fondly as the Coachella Valley Firebirds head coach in the team's inaugural 2 seasons, amassing not a misprint, record in the regular season of 94-32, resulting in the 2 Western Conference Championship banners proudly hanging aloft at the Birds Barn of Acrisure Arena. Welcome, Dan Bylsma, to the Fire and Ice podcast. Hello, Coach.
How are we doing today?
I'm doing well. Appreciate your time. It was nearly a fortnight ago as the Birds were wrapping up their recent homestand, sauntering through the concourse at Acrisure Arena. Andrew John from the Desert Sun and I looked at each other and we said, "It's Coach Bylsma." And there you were, walking through Acrisure Arena. What were you doing there? I'll start with that.
Catching a Birds game. My wife and I have chosen to get out of the cold of Michigan for the wintertime and spent a month in Salt Lake City where my son currently resides and is working. And then we came down here to the desert and going to spend 2 months in the desert. And that will include getting some bird games when we can.
The evening that we saw you, was that the first time that you had been back at Acrisure Arena since, I suppose, well, the last time?
Yeah, yes, it was. It was for my first time back, and lots of good memories, lots of good feelings, lots of good memories. And you mentioned the banners hanging up in the corner. They were more of a uh, not appropriate memory because they mean we came up one game short in both the first and the second year, and would like to have seen a Calder Cup champion banner up there. But still, a lot of good memories, a lot of success, and it'll always stay with me.
Well, we always credit you with some degree of prescience, which is to say, my two follow-up questions were just addressed, but I'm going to ask them anyway. Being back in the building, you said, gives you good feelings and good memories. Expand on that a little bit.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of, I guess, a lot of things, a lot of feelings that come back. We were charged with starting a new franchise in a new city, a new team in the American Hockey League, and there was some, I'd say anticipation as to what that would mean to the Valley, and just right from the get go, I like probably a great memory for me is looking back to that first season, we started in Seattle. We came to the Valley really for the first time in November 1st or so. I think November 5th, we came down, we started practicing in the building, but stepping off the plane at the Palm Springs airport, we were greeted by fans and signs, birds in the airport, yes. But stepped off the plane, as a group, and immediately we felt the warmth of the Valley. Our fans were there. There were signs. There was energy. They were cheering, and that stepped right into the building. We started, I think, December 15th or 14th was the first home game, 19th maybe, and the immediately. The Valley had a different feel to it than any other American League city. I had the fans that came out, the energy in the building. It was first class, first rate, and thankfully and luckily we gave them some wins to keep cheering about, and almost immediately established the Valley as the best place in the American Hockey League to play hockey.
Talked about the banners, and I wonder for you in your career, are you more apt to look at the wins that you accomplished or the wins that eluded you?
That's a good question too. I think I think you look at the losses more than you do the wins. I hate to say it, because there was an awful lot of wins and successes in that, especially that first playoff run. We had a game 3 in the first round, a game 5 in the second round, and the game against Colorado, where Alexander True scores a shorthanded game winner with 2:42 left to go. I think it was exactly when we took that penalty, and we lose that. They score, we lose that game, and you're going home. And miraculously, we get a shorthanded goal, and turns out to be the game winner. And you can continue to the finals. Games 1 and 2 and 6 were great wins, but it ends with that salty, game 7 overtime game where you come up short, and sadly, I think I've had a chance to win the final game, but the losses in the final game are more bitter and more memorable, I think, obviously from a negative standpoint, but they stick with you a lot longer than the wins do, and so I said I look at the banner and see the conference championship is just a reminder of coming up short in game 7.
You and I first chatted, Coach, almost 4 years ago. It was back in 2022 when you were making your way. I think you were literally making your way. You're in the car with your better half driving out to the desert, I think for the first time. And among the things we talked about in that conversation was what you hope to accomplish And what you told me, along with a few other things of note, was that you wanted to turn this into a hockey town, was that you wanted to make Acrisure Arena a very tough place for opponents to play. In revisiting Acrisure Arena now, nearly 4 years later since we had that chat, do you feel that those aims were accomplished?
Well, I from those words, I can't look at anything that we did or in that first year and that second year as anything but an ultimate success, and grabbing the hearts of the community responding back with a great turnout, great fans, and it's clear to me now that this is the place to play in the American Hockey League, and that's not only from a fan standpoint, but a development standpoint, an atmosphere standpoint, a city standpoint. All those things have come to fruition and are true, and a great success looking back and from that standpoint. And I think the American League. I think the fans in the city have settled into this team a little bit. It's not it's not full every night, and 85. I don't know what we averaged the first year, but it's not full every night. But I was a couple things since I've been back to the desert. I was walking in La Quinta, and I had a Firebirds hat on, and a lady jumped out of a storefront and immediately started talking about the birds. She had no idea that I had been the coach, but she immediately started talking about the birds and the continuing success and the young kids, and that's happened a couple times to me. Just walking, we were out on a hike just 2 days ago, and walking our dog, and the fan nestled up and walking our dogs together, and he was an LA Kings fan and now a Birds fan, so he did recognize me. But just the conversation of the team and where they're at, and the young players proves to me that it's a city thing. They have embraced the fans or the team. It's a part of it's a part of Coachella Valley, and that's a great thing to see. And you don't get that in a lot of places. I'll just say you don't get that if you're walking the streets of I don't want to diss on any other place.
I feel you.
But you get it here, and that's a good thing. That's, I think, proves that this is a hockey town. This is a hockey environment, and it's a great place for our players here to develop and grow and grow into National Hockey League players.
Yeah, it is. It is a hockey town. I feel in many different ways that aim was accomplished. The attendance numbers that you referenced, yeah, would we like to see more people in the building on a night to night basis or on a Wednesday night basis? Of course, but we knew that those numbers were going to be difficult to sustain for a variety of factors. But in concert with the core and very devoted fan base, in concert with the team's ongoing success under your successor, Derek Laxdal, and in concert with, we're not going to get deep in the weeds on this, but what has happened at the neighboring and adjacent Burger Iceplex, which has flourished into its own subculture that did not exist. There was no existence of this before your arrival. These have all been massive successes for where we live. When I look back at that first season, even the first two seasons, look, I've been doing this for 27 years. You've been doing this for what you do for a very, very long time. I look back at it as this, it's one of the most amazing things. I feel like even a very, very small spoke in the wheel to have been a part of this organic electricity that it's not recreatable. You can't bottle that. You can't market that. You can't PR that. It's just sometimes once in a great while, something that happens and you just go along for the ride. And when I look back at it now, it gives me the chills, still thinking about that first season. But I almost look back at it and I look back at your time here in a way as kind of a blur. You referenced, you'd played about those first 20 games of the first season, not here. You came in December, all of a sudden start winning all these hockey games. The playoffs were incredible and amazing. And then the second season started off kind of modest. Then you guys caught fire all over again, another playoff run all over again. And then amid the onset of the Western Conference Finals, and you got the job in Seattle. So it's just everything happened so fast. And there were so many good things that happened so fast. For you, do you look back at it in any way as kind of a blur?
Uh, it's I consider it for myself, a great success, and the team, the players, the success we had winning hockey games, but it it can't be missed that some extraordinary things happen to that team along the way. The playoff story and the playoff hockey that this city and that building got to see was was extraordinary. There are underlining parts of what made it a great story, but we started that playoffs against Tucson, and we had from the roster we had, let's just say midway through the year to what we started with in against Tucson, we had three junior players in that lineup. We had two East Coast League players that had called up and been a part of our team, certainly, but they were in that lineup. We were not the juggernaut that we could be when everyone was in the lineup. And so that first playoff series, best of three, which, as a team that finished a nip and tuck with Calgary the whole year, and we're clearly the two best teams, I think, in our conference or in our division. We had a tall task in that first round, and it took us to game three, and we exploded in game three and won that game pretty handily. But it led on to each round was we went to the final game. We went to overtime, and we're looking at Eddie Whitcow here on the left of this picture. If anyone can see it, like we're in overtime against Calgary, and he makes a save on his knees with his hand behind Joey Decord that obviously saves the game for us. There was a 2-on-1 in that overtime. Cole Schwint, who I coached before in my life, he's on a 2-on-1, and Joey Decord gets just a piece of his jersey on the shot that goes high glove, and it goes off I think that one hit the crossbar and out, and it proceeded. But we finished the game with Podorowski's overtime goal, but the video evidence is not totally there, but that's an offside play. It's pretty certain that play was offside, and which I at the time didn't really even think about when I think it was Carte and Froden and Podorowski get the puck in the neutral zone, come over the line, and Posse scores a goal. But on the far blue line, right by the penalty box there, I think we're offside. And anyways, we scored the overtime there, and the story continues on. But some of the most dramatic, awesome hockey that you can have, and that's the playoffs is all about that. But I think looking back, we should all be thankful, and that was really special. That was awesome. There was a lot of great things that happened, and again, it was just a completely a kind of a surreal ride and journey that we all got to be a part of.
It was magic for sure. And for a guy that says he remembers the losses more than the wins, some awesome specificity there from Dan Bylsma. Going into year two, such an interesting, also magical, but equally strange time. And I think we struggled as media members to ask you questions in the right way or to elicit answers that we wanted to hear, but we were equally focused on the Western Conference Finals against Milwaukee for the second time in as many years. with your promotion back to the National Hockey League. I know I tried a few different ways and kind of squeeze in there and ask you, how are you balancing these two things? What's going on in your head? How do you prep for the Admirals? Also dealing with whatever you got to deal with and going back to the NHL. How do you reflect back on that period of time for yourself?
Yeah, it's I'll just say the process of that all unfolding, happened over the course of the second and the third rounds, and so I was probably dealing with it before you knew I was dealing with it. But I think I that's you can compartmentalize things and need to. But me going through the process, I wanted everything and all the focus to be on the Birds and winning hockey games and going as far as we could in the playoffs. And so I appreciate you maybe danced around it. I wasn't ever gonna there was in a back compartment of what was going on at that particular time, and I wanted both for the players and for the team for all the focus to be on the Birds and winning a championships, and so that's where my brain was at the whole time, was solely focused on the Birds and those guys and that team to try to win as many games as we possibly could.
A segue to whatever degree or length you deem fit. This is not a program where we've ever tried to throw anybody under the bus or ask gotcha questions or speak ill of players or coaches or organizations. Your time in Seattle was brief. It was about 10 plus to 11 months. It is uncommon in any of the four big sports. We can also include the WNBA, the burgeoning WNBA as a fifth sport, for a head coach to have one season. I mean, you basically had 10 or 11 months. I'm a Minnesota Wild fan, but I'll say I followed the Seattle Kraken very closely last year. I wanted to see how a lot of those former Firebirds played for you in the NHL. I wanted to see the Kraken do very, very well under your leadership and tutelage. It was not a great season. It was not a terrible season. What spoke most to me, however, about your season with the Kraken last year, you guys had 21 comeback wins, and 8 of which I think came in the third period. And to me, what that metric always says is that the players like their coach. The players are going to play for their coach. They're not going to quit on their coach, whatever the ultimate results may be. That was top 5 in the NHL last year, by the way, those 21 comebacks. Would you have liked more time on the Seattle bench?
Well, that's obviously the answer to that is yes. But I think as you go up in the ranks of coaching and it's it ultimately is all about winning hockey games and winning. And I can safely say I didn't do enough of that, with the Kraken. So I heard it a long time ago. Your coach is hired to be fired, and that doesn't make a lot of sense until you've been fired. And I've coached pre-NHL hockey teams. You get hired to get fired, and it's all about winning. It's all about winning. And again, I can just safely say I didn't do enough of that. I certainly would have liked to coach the Kraken a little bit longer, but I can also, I can acknowledge that, the marker of which we maybe set for ourselves at the beginning of the year, we didn't reach. And ultimately I'm the caretaker of that. So, again, I'd love to have coached the Kraken, continue to see the development of that team and the players. A lot of the players that I coached in Coachella, would have liked to see them continue to grow, which they have, which is great. I still take a lot of pride and joy in seeing the guys, like Melanson, who I got to coach for a year in CV, go up, continue to grow as a player and go up there and do well and establish himself as a National Hockey League player.
Yeah, there's a word for that, what you're discussing prior to Jacob Melanson, who, by the way, like hits everything but the hot dog vendor and Bowie. But yeah, the margins are slim. There's a word for that. It's called sports, and there's
Yeah.
only a one letter difference between hire and fire. Ultimately, I yeah would have liked to have seen you have more time and more opportunity with what is now basically a third of your former players on a nightly basis suiting up for a Kraken team that's doing pretty well thus far into the year as we reach the Olympic break. A question, Coach, before I reset here, and I think it's the question that everybody listening probably wants me to ask, and I'm curious myself. Hey, you're a young guy. You're only 55 years old, man. You want to coach again?
It's a young guy. I appreciate that. I don't, I don't feel that way, I'll say, as a coach. I think I got an opportunity to coach in the National Hockey League for the Pittsburgh Penguins. That was in my 5th year of coaching. I was 38 at the time. I didn't view myself as young then, but I was. At that particular time, I had 2 or 3 players that were, within a year of me. I was coaching Billy Guerin. He's a few months younger than me. I had played with 4 or 5 of the players that I was coaching in Pittsburgh before in my career. And that's now 20 years ago. So from my standpoint, I've had a long coaching journey. I think personally, 5 years ago, when I went to Charlotte in the American Hockey League with that organization, it was a restart to my career. Wanted to be a head coach again, and which led to CV, and which led on to Seattle. So I got back into it, head coach again. Love doing that. The journey brought me to Seattle, which is where I ultimately wanted to be in my coaching journey. And so at this particular time, I am doing a personal reset to see what my next goals are and to see where I want this to go next. So I feel like I'm in the twilight of my coaching career and my coaching journey. So I'm just kind of taking a reset and evaluating the past couple of years and evaluating what happened last year in Seattle and seeing what's next for me. And that may be coaching again. I don't say for a second that it couldn't be, but it might not necessarily be. I still figuring that out.
Speaking of resets, I best do one now. Friends, you are tuning in to the Desert Suns Fire and Ice podcast presented by Desert Willow Golf Resort. My guest is former Firebirds head coach Dan Bylsma. Coach, the Olympic Games are underway. You and I are speaking a few ticks before USA Canada on the women's side. The men will get underway Thursday morning Pacific with Slovakia and Finland. I want to discuss this for a few minutes. The Miracle on Ice in 1980. It's something that I think is particularly close to both of our respective hearts. You as a native Michigander, myself as a Minnesota native. A dozen Minnesotans on that team, 2 Michiganders on that team. I'm going to expand more on that momentarily. Why it's germane to talk about is not just because of nostalgia. It is the last time that Team USA won the gold medal. And for me, I was 5 years old when that happened. You were 10 or 11 years old. But the cultural ramifications of that gold medal win for Herbie Hockey and his boys, it's something that as I grew up in Minnesota in the years ensuing, I could see and taste and feel all around me, whether it be USA versus Russia, the Soviet Union bubble hockey, whether it be Mike
Yeah.
Ruzione's number 21 that people wanted to wear, whether it be a surge of hockey interest and talent being groomed in the United States. For you, with those 2 Michiganders, both of whom, Kenny Morrow and the late Mark Wells, respectively, they played at Bowling Green, which would ultimately become your eventual alma mater. Maybe also a potential connection with you to the assistant coach, Craig Patrick. He was born in Detroit, and then, of course, his affiliation and his work drafted a lot of your eventual players with Pittsburgh. Were you close to that team in any way as you got deeper into your hockey career? Did you cross paths with some of those fellows?
I have cross paths with some of those fellows. Ken Morrow, in particular from Bowling Green, because of that, but also he was and has been with the Islanders in a scouting and a head scout capacity for a long time. I was with the Islanders for a season, um, so I've got a chance to chat with him and talk with him and know him a little bit more. Mike Ruzioni has, he's been involved with USA Hockey for a long time because of the 1980s. So I've had a chance to meet with him and talk with him, have dinner with him, be at the golf course with him. But those are really the guys that I've had a chance to. I was 10, as you mentioned, when they won the gold medal. So when I had a chance to meet those guys and talk with those guys, it's more from a fan standpoint of, these are the guys that actually were on the ice and doing it and won that gold medal. And to me, it's an interesting conversation about the team and the college kids versus the national team of most of the other teams in there, and the ramifications of that game from a political standpoint, I guess, from a world standpoint, continually amaze me about that conversation. But those guys are heroes, and guys you looked up to, and you guys you looked up to as an American player. And I've had a chance to coach the red, white, and blue on a number of occasions, and they're the people we're chasing. They got the gold medal, and we're always we want to be the next 1980 Olympic gold medal team. So they're more heroes to me, and guys I look up to.
Yeah, when you were coaching the 2014 team, which last time, by the way, that the Olympics had best on best, last time NHL players, was there a piece of that in your mind? Were you in any way trying to channel what you remembered as a kid from 1980, what you grew up with in Michigan, with the cultural domino that resulted from the Miracle on Ice team? Did you have a little piece of that in your mind?
Yeah, I think you have to. I think so. I think the tournament, the players in the tournament, it's so different than it was for the 1980 team. Which it's always talked about, but you might be able to fool some people and think that when they beat the Russians in that game, it was for the gold medal, and it was not. That was a game that led to the game against Finland, which they still had to win the gold medal. But that's a team that's with each other from before the best on best happened. The Olympic team got together, the national team got together in the fall, and then they played a whole series for 4 months to get to before they got to the Olympics. And we've seen that play out in the movie Miracle. Our team's so much different. You literally get together 3 days before the tournament starts. You have 2 practices, and then you get into the game. So it's hard to try to develop the same kind of, the movie about when we win a gold medal this year is going to be much different than the 81, where Herb Brooks was the coach that he was, and molded those guys with months and months of practice and different games, and skating them after the game in Norway, and that's not going to be part of the movie that we make when we win the gold medal this year. But so you channel it a little bit. We won a gold medal, I think, we won 2 gold medals, 60 and 80. The USA has won the Olympic gold medal. That's talked about, that was on our jerseys. It was on the inside of our jerseys that the year 60 and 80 were there. And I think for some of the players on our team, they've had relationships with that 80 team, be it a dad, be it an uncle, be it, you know, people from the same university you went to. And so you kind of draw on that. I think the players draw on that. The players have that in the back of their mind, and they want to be the next 1980 team.
Coach, we'll get you out of here on this one. Just looking for a quick handicap of these Olympic Games. On the men's side, Canada is your favorite, understandably so. Team USA not far behind. We've got the traditional Scandinavian powers, but then we got a dozen teams. Basically, I see 10 of them that could be on the medal stand in some capacity. Some sneaky teams in Germany, or even Oscar Fisker-Molgaard's Denmark team, which also includes, as we said, former Firebird Alexander True. That team could be sneaky good. The Czechs, as always, are going to be tough. Who do you like in this men's Olympic Games?
Well, I think you play in your group, you play 3 games, and then you get seeded into the qualifier game or onto the quarterfinals. So I think really critical. You see how you get seeded coming out of the rounds. USA, I think, clearly has the easiest group. Canada second, and then Finland and Sweden are in the same group as well. So it's really critical for the teams to get out of there with a great seeding. So a tie, is really detrimental to your seeding if you're US, if you're Canada, if you're Finland and Sweden. So when you watch the preliminary rounds, the second you see a team hiccup and get that tie or don't get the total 3 points for the win, it's going to affect the seeding that gets reseeded for the quarterfinal games. And how you come out of that and how you're seeded is going to determine who really has a chance to win, or the easiest path to win, I'll say. So, in 14, we got seeded coming out of there very high. We did really good in the qualifying rounds. Canada had a hiccup, and that meant we played them in the semifinals. So our gold medal game, our game against the best on best, US Canada, was in the semifinal. And obviously one of us was not going to have a chance to win the gold medal. Someone was going to win and go on. Canada did. So I think how you come out of your grouping is really critical to who's going to have the success. All those teams could Finland, Sweden, Czechia, US, Canada, all have a legitimate chance to say they could, win the most important game and be a medalist and be a gold medalist. I think it's gonna be really kind of critical to see who comes out of that with that seeding. So Canada, Latvia in 2014 was a 2-1 game, of which Canada scored a power play goal in the third period to win that game. Any one of those teams could be the spoiler and could pull off a game against Canada or US or Finland. So it'll be really interesting to watch. I think USA, there's some great storylines that you'll see play out. The goaltending is going to be a situation that determines who's going to have a great chance here to win the gold medal. But I think it's going to be US or Canada that win a gold medal. And hopefully it comes down to the final game, and that's the gold medal game, and we can see it all play out.
Coach, very fortuitous to have run into you at Acrisure Arena the other night. So appreciative of your time. Great to have you back in the desert. I'll close with this. As a former Firebird, who shall go unnamed, as he told me, and I was asking him about his career and his time in the AHL and his time in hockey, about coaches, he told me there's only one Dan Bylsma, and I'm inclined to agree with that assessment. Sir, enjoy the Olympics, and we'll look forward to seeing you again at the Bird's Barn. Thanks for your time.
Absolutely. Thank you. And we'll see you at the barn.
All right, ladies and gents, great visit there with Firebirds former head coach Dan Bylsma. We'll wrap up this episode as we are wont to do in shootout style, where we duel with pens in lieu of pistols. Welcoming back to the Fire and Ice podcast, the Desert Suns Fire and Ice podcast, presented by Desert Willow Golf Resort. He is the sports and leisure editor for the Desert Sun newspaper. Wrapping it up, we set him up. We knock him down, rapid fire style. Shad Powers of the Desert Sun. Welcome back, Shad.
Hey, Judd, good to be back.
Got 5 questions for you, maybe 5.5 questions, a special episode. We've got a special question, but we'll start as we are wont to do by filling in the blank on this question, sir. As the Birds are now in the All-Star break, what are you most impressed by of late?
What I've been impressed by in the recent sort of good stretch is that the best players are playing the best, if you want to say it like that.
Yeah.
Um, Logan Morrison is the guy you have to start right out with. You kept trying to get him to say that he felt like he should have been in the All-Star game. And here we are at All-Star time, and he's playing like as good as anyone in the HL, probably. Every night you look up, he's got a goal and assist, 2 goals. Great 2-goal, 2-assist night the other day in a win where they only scored 4 goals. So he's just been playing rock solid. Add in, Yanni Newman has been up now for a while, and he's looking great. That's what's been helping, I think, in this recent stretch. For a while there, we had like all sorts of different contributors doing all the little things right. But these recent wins seem to have been really based on the star power of the best players, and that's kind of a neat thing to see. So recent time, that's what I've been impressed by is the way the stars are like, showing their stuff right now.
Moving on to question 2. Great answer there for sure. We are, of course, on this All-Star break, the aforementioned, but the most memorable moment of late before the Birds in the AHL hit set break.
Well, that's a good one. It's kind of tricky. They've been on the road for quite a while here for us, but I've been. The name Andrei Lashko is one I keep coming back to. Every time, that guy doesn't score a lot of goals, but when he scores them, they're big, it seems like. And he had a huge one the other night in that 4-3 win over Henderson. I believe it was 3-3, and he scored the game winner early in the third. And then nice job by them to hold off. So that's a guy that I've been like, he seems like a big moment type of guy in recent weeks. Like I said, you watch a game, you might not think of his name or see him too much, but then it seems like every time he does score a goal, it's a crucial one. So I like that about him. I've been, excited to see that guy sort of blossom a little bit, and it's nice to have confident scorers in the clutch situation. So that's something I've been impressed by.
Interesting choice.
Yeah, trying to go a little bit outside the box, but yeah, that and then Ty Nelson overtime goal against Henderson in the most recent game as well. That was cool to see. Classic Ty Nelson laser beam slap shot. That was a big moment too.
Yeah,
because that was a game.
Absolutely, great one-timer, and saved what could have gotten a gross. Talk about epilogues, a gross epilogue heading into the All-Star break. The Bears lost that game.
Yeah, that would have been a bummer. So that was big too. So both those guys have been playing well, and yeah.
Yeah, if only Andrei Lashko wasn't from a terrible place in the world, we'd probably talk about him more on this program. My views, not those shared necessarily by Shad Powers or the Desert Sun. Sidebar. Move on to question 3 with Shad Powers of the Desert Sun. You referenced that they've been on the road this past the week previous. I referenced the All-Star break this week, but nonetheless, the best quote that you've heard of late, Shad.
Yeah, that's a that's a tough one. Like you said, I haven't, like we haven't been fortunate enough to see the Firebirds recently. But I don't know. I sort of like to take it back to this is like a cheating, but quotes from you and I and Andrew talking at games. Does that count? But no, I mean, we've been loving. I don't remember who said it, but yeah, I would really like Jack LaFontaine, the way he's been playing lately. He's confident. Ostman also playing well, and gosh, I wish I could remember the guy, but somebody in a post game, the most recent one I was at, they were asked about the goalie situation. We're missing our number one goalie, as we know, and they said that hey, both these guys, LaFontaine and Ostman, give us confidence. Not like we don't even think about it. Not a thing. We're out here doing our thing. We know they're going to do their thing. So maybe you can remember who said that, but one of the guys was asked.
Might have been Logan Morrison.
Yeah, I think it might have been. Yeah, but yeah, and that's a great point, and that's carried through. That was a couple of weeks ago, but it's still true today. Those guys have been playing well. Um, None of these like ballooning scores for the other team in this last month, basically. So they're really holding down the fort. Something Laxdal said at the last time he talked to us was that he was saying when Coco comes back as opposed to if Coco comes back. So that made me think he is coming back at some point, so that's a good sign too. But I'm with that player. I can't remember. Those guys are giving me confidence as well, and that's an important thing, and they've really stabilized things nicely.
Birds back at it this Friday night at home versus a so-so Tucson Road Runners team. 45 games down, Shad 27 to go. Wouldn't say we're quite at the home stretch just yet, but as Birds kind of near and then eventually entered that 20-game finale of the regular season, what's your biggest concern right now?
Yeah, I think. Sorry, my dog just barked. If you want a little
It's okay.
behind the
My
scenes stuff.
dogs, my dogs are you right here too.
Um, Uh, and then, there's been a lot of things to be impressed by and to be confident in, but the thing that worries me still is, I guess, sort of the bookend to what I said earlier is finding reliable scoring outside of the studs now. That's sort of gone away. There was a stretch there where it seemed like a lot of people were confident and, different goal scorers every night, but now it's really been the top dogs. And I want to see the rest of the gang sort of filling in when those guys aren't on top of their game. So that's what I'm a little bit worried about. I want to get back to some more balanced scoring and have the studs still be studs. That's the dream scenario, obviously. So a little more balance in the scoring, if I had to say, like at this perfect particular stretch, is worrying me a little bit.
Yeah, there was one point in a not too distant, I can't remember the exact date, but wasn't that long ago where we were commenting on Carson Rakoff and
Yeah.
his unlikely hat trick on a game where he started on the fourth line and eventually moved up to the third. But that was a little while ago now when we started to reference that depth in scoring. I agree wholeheartedly. Need a few more of those guys, third line, fourth line, to start piping up on a regular basis. All right, question five. We're going to call it question 5.5. This is typically the what's cracking query in the Desert Shootout segment, but given the Olympic break, 19-day window with no NHL games, given the AHL All-Star break, we were perhaps going to spend a little time talking about Jacob Melanson. I think the both of us probably checking the tweets, checking the transactions to see if Jacob Melanson might be coming back down as he would be eligible to do during this window that has 7 games, by the way, for the Firebirds in this NHL break. But since
Hmm.
that hasn't happened yet, let's instead, unless there's anything else you want to say about Melanson or anybody else, I don't think there's going to be any transactions, but that we got the Olympics going on. The men get underway this Thursday morning with their play. The women are, of course, well underway. Who do you like? Who do you like on the men's side in these Olympic Games, Shad?
Well, I am born and raised in the United States. And what fans of this might not know is I'm a Michigan man, so I'm a Detroit Red Wings fan. And one of my, obviously the current player I like the most is Larkin, and he's out there on Team USA. So I'm going to root for, well, of course, I'm rooting for the US, but also I believe they're going to win. I know that would be something, but I feel like I don't know, I just feel like they're right there with, the best of the best. I like you know, the attitude right now of a lot of the players on that team. Like I said, some of the guys I focus on seem to be, specifically on the Team USA. So it's hard for me to get off of them as my choice to win. And what about you? I'll admit you know a little bit more about these things than I do. I think as far as like the NHL, spread on versus Canada, US, wherever else.
As I said today about Bylsma, we got a dozen teams in this. There are 10 of which I could see on that medal stand. The Four Nations last year got us
Yeah.
all prepped and primed for what should be the real centerpiece of these Olympic Games. I'm inclined to agree with you. I mean, Canada
Mm.
is the favorite, but U.S. is right behind them. If that's ultimately the gold medal title game, instant memory serves whatever brain cells I got left. I'm pretty sure Dan Bylsma said the same thing, that that's what we want to see is that North American USA
Mhm.
Canada game, which I'm gonna go with you. I think that USA pulls it off and grabs that gold medal for the first time since the miracle 46 years ago. But hell, man, it is
Yeah.
a deep field, all manner of suitors. People like Sweden, people like Finland, deservedly so. Some
Hmm.
people see Oscar Molgaard and his Denmark team as being an underdog threat. The Czechs are going to be tough. The Swiss are going to be really good. Latvia could be sneaky. We'll see. That's why it's going to be a great watch. It's such a crazy tournament. It all happens really, really fast. And one slip up, one weird game, one tie that could cost you a spot in the group. Who knows, man? But at the end of the day, I'm with you. I think Team USA is ready to stand atop that podium again.
Yeah, and maybe you've mentioned this already, but and of course we know there are three players in the Olympics who have donned a Firebirds jersey. Of course, you got Molgaard playing with Alex True on Team Denmark, and then Grubauer, the goalie, is on Team Germany. So, I mean, that's pretty common knowledge, maybe to our fan base, but I think that's just throw that out there if you want to see some guys that have once worn a Firebird jersey out there doing stuff in the Olympics.
All right. Well, Shadley, as always, appreciate your time. We set them up, we knock them down in rapid fire fashion. Go for the gold, my friend. I hope to see you soon, whether it be an Olympic watch party. We should probably put that together as Team USA gets deeper in the quarterfinals or the medal rounds. If not, I will undoubtedly see you at the Birds Barn soon enough at Acrisure Arena. Thanks for the time, man. Always a pleasure.
Love it. Thanks a lot, Judd.
All right, Firebirds friends. It's going to wrap it up for another episode of the Desert Sons Fire and Ice podcast, presented by Desert Willow Golf Resort. So appreciative of your ongoing time, your interest, your ears, your support of this endeavor. Birds are playing well. Show is doing well, happy to say. Per the latter, that's in large part due to you, gentle listener. Thank you again for all your support of the Fire and Ice podcast. Additional thanks, of course, go to this episode's guest, former Firebirds head coach, Dan Bylsma. Fascinating guy. Great to visit with Dan for the first time in person on this program. The sponsors who make this show go, couldn't do it without them. The Desert Sun newspaper. You can follow all their local sports and news coverage online at desertsun.com. Great visiting Shad Powers of the Desert Sun on this episode's Desert Shootout segment. Or you can just go buy a physical newspaper, by the way, for those that don't like to read the news online. Desert Willow Golf Resort, right here in sunny Palm Desert, California. We're in the peak season, friends, and it is prime time to tee it up over at DW. Either or both the Firecliff and Mountain View courses are available to you by making a tee time online at desertwillow.com. Want to repeat that accolade I mentioned at the onset of this episode of Fire and Ice, recently named by NBC's Golf Pass the Reader's Choice Awards for 2026, top 50 in the country. So said the readers and the golfers about the Firecliff course. But trust me, you're going to love either or both of those tracks. 5-star rating. That, again, seems worthy of mention. So were the stars, so many stars applied by the readers from Golf Pass to the Firecliff course. Again, tee times online at desertwillow.com. While you're on there poking around, be sure to check out the excellent and on-site Palm Desert Golf Academy, sponsor of the Firebirds Freeze Frame segment. Both the 29 Palms Beer Company and the Ground Squirrel up yonder, 29 Palms. Trust me, friends, those are your high desert hockey homes. Enjoy the Olympics, enjoy the Olympic hockey, and enjoy this brief AHL respite for the All-Star break. As again, we've got two Firebirds, Jagger Firkus and Tyson Jugnoth, representing CV this week in Rockford, Illinois. Birds back at it this Friday night at home versus the 7th place Tucson Roadrunners. That is Kraken night at the Birds Barn of Acrisure Arena. Thanks again for tuning in, everybody. We will see you there and then at Acrisure this Friday night. Until then, and always, be well.